Hello and welcome to the class today. Our topic is health. Um, I hope everyone is having a good day today. And if you're listening to this afterwards, I will have it all uploaded, or if you're connecting now. So, hello everyone and welcome. I'm going to actually put a book under my I'm making a makeshift microphone stand. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? How's your Saturday going? I hope you're doing well. And yeah, today our topic is health. I was just thinking I have had a lot of students that are sick recently, or having allergies or other things like that. So there are so many ways that we can describe feeling sick or symptoms and things like that. I'm drinking coffee today from this. My friend is an artist and she made this mug that has Jane from Breaking Bad on it. So that's my coffee of the day. I keep feeling like I have to sneeze. Maybe somehow I know that the class is about health today, and I keep feeling like I have to sneeze. In case you don't know the word sneeze, sneeze is when someone goes, achoo, and you need a Kleenex after. One interesting thing is that when you sneeze and you need the certain napkin to clean your nose, we don't usually say napkin. I have seen very generic names like facial tissue, but the most common thing to say is Kleenex. I need a Kleenex. Because, well, this is me talking about the United States because it's possible there is a different word in different countries. In the United States, we say, I need a Kleenex or I need a tissue also. I need a Kleenex or a tissue. Kleenex is a brand name, but it became very popular to use, and tissue is kind of a more generic name. In Germany, we say Hatschi. Oh, like for the sneeze itself? Hatschi. For a wet tissue, no, I'm talking about the dry tissue, a Kleenex or a tissue. If you need a wet one, I would say a wet wipe, maybe. A wet wipe or a facial wipe. So if you see the word wipe, the word wipe has a couple of meanings. Exactly. It's like you have Colgate for toothpaste. Yeah. Or in Chile, they say confort for toilet paper because it's the most popular brand. In Persian, you also say Kleenex. That's so funny. Yeah, wipe as a noun is a little wet towel that you use. It could be a facial wipe, a makeup wipe if you wear makeup and you want to remove it, or for the bathroom. And to wipe is to take a towel and clean something, including if you go to the bathroom. So if you have a small child, you sometimes need to remind them, remember to wipe after you use the bathroom. You're telling them to clean their butts. Remember to wipe. Maybe adults need to be reminded too. Difference between napkin and Kleenex. Napkin, at least in the US, is more the one that you use in the kitchen. It's like the thicker squares versus a tissue or Kleenex is very thin, so you can use it on your face without it hurting. That would be the difference between napkin and tissue. Wipe is generally wet. Yeah, I would say so. If you buy something in the store and you're buying a pack of wipes, it's usually wet. Yeah. Exactly. I like the expression to wipe the floor with your rivals. True, yeah. If you beat someone really badly in a competition, people say that you wiped the floor with them, like you used that person as your mop. Wipe your nose, yeah. We have two options with your nose. You can wipe your nose or blow your nose. I think it's better usually to blow your nose because that way you use force to try to get things out of your nose if you blow your nose. But wipe, you only on the superficial level, take off what's there. So you could blow your nose or wipe your nose. I had some questions today for everyone that hopefully will make you think about these topics because I don't know if anyone here lives in an English-speaking country or you plan to visit. It can be complicated to think of health and describing symptoms and that sort of thing. So, my first question to everyone is, do you have any allergies? So, do you have any allergies? I have blank allergies, or I have an allergy to blank. For example, I have lactose allergies, or I have an allergy to lactose, could be. So, I want you to tell me, do you have any allergies? Yeah, I agree with you, Joelle. I only wipe my nose if I'm in a place where I have to be quiet. That was always terrible in school where you're in a big room full of people taking a test. And if you had the sniffles is when your nose is running and you're going and you are sniffing. That's to have the sniffles. So if you have the sniffles and your classmates look at you while you're taking this test, yeah, that is a terrible experience that I think a lot of children face. I have no allergies at all. Nice. Do I have any allergies? I have a pretty bad allergy to poison ivy, which I think everyone is allergic to. But when I was younger, I had a really bad reaction to touching poison ivy. And then later, when I was 14, right before my first day of high school, I was eating a mango and I ate the mango and it had some of the skin, and the skin touched my face, and I got this rash on my face. A rash is when your skin is red and itchy. So I had a rash on my face, and the doctor said that there was some kind of relationship between the mango skin and poison ivy, that these plants have something in common. I don't really remember, but I think I have an allergy to mango skin. I have an allergy to house mites. Okay. An allergy to house mites. Yeah, how would you describe house mites? Those are like microscopic little organisms that live inside of our house, like in dust and that sort of thing. I've never understood what they are, just that they are on us all the time. Someone said, what does allergy mean? An allergy is when there is something that to you particularly makes you feel sick. So some people cannot drink milk because for that person, when they drink milk, it makes their stomach feel really bad. Or some people in a specific time of the year, when there are a lot of trees, the trees have some dust on them called pollen. And if you basically have this in the air, you might be a person that's very sensitive and sneezes a lot when you are exposed to it. In that case, you have an allergy. So, an allergy is when there's something that you have a sensitivity to that makes you feel sick, but it maybe doesn't it's not like that for everyone. You particularly have a problem, like with cats. Some people are very allergic to cats and other people are not. I have okay, you have a pollen allergy or an allergy due to dust particles. I have an allergy to lactose and seafood. Oh my goodness. I'm allergic to work and to shovels. Okay. I have an allergy to accessories which are not made of gold or silver. Okay, that's also common. Yeah, some people need sterling silver or pure metal because your skin can get irritated if you have a fake metal. Basically, I just start sneezing like crazy and it itches whenever there's too much dust around. I have warm allergy, like an allergy to warm weather. That's interesting. Okay. You could say, I have an allergy to, I have a grass allergy, or I am allergic to grass. So we're going to use the word allergic as the adjective. I am allergic, or I have an allergy. Now that you say that, I also have a grass allergy, I think. When I sit in tall grass, it gives me a rash also. So does anyone know, I have been saying this word, a rash, and what symptoms can you think of for people feeling sick? For example, I've mentioned a rash or the sniffles. So I want to know from you all, what other symptoms can you think of? A rash is when your body touches something that maybe you have an allergy to, like grass or a metal, and it makes your skin red and itchy. That is a rash. So also, you can see with babies, a lot of babies develop a diaper rash because the babies wear diapers. Yes, it's itchy skin. And the sniffles is when your nose is running and you go. So if you're feeling kind of sick, but you are not so sick, you just have a little bit of snot coming out, you could say, I have the sniffles. Redness and swelling. Yeah, swelling is a good one too. When something swells, it grows in size. For example, if you hit your head and then your head starts to grow, you get a bump that grows in size. You could say, oh, wow, his head is swollen. So you have swelling and your head is swollen. The same thing could be, also in your throat. If your throat, the inside grows in size because you're having a respiratory problem, it could be that your throat is swollen. Coughing, itchiness, your throat closes and it's hard to breathe. Some people might get a feeling of wanting to vomit. Yeah. If you feel like you want to vomit, that is nausea. So I feel nauseous or I am experiencing nausea. My phone kept autocorrecting to Nadea, and I don't know what that means, but yeah, nausea. Nausea. This word it looks very complicated to say, but nausea, nausea, nausea. Nausea. I have a penicillin allergy. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I think my dad has an allergy to penicillin. Yes, exactly. Like what Danielle said, nausea. Or I feel nauseous, nauseous, nauseous. It's like nauseous. Okay, I'm going to ask you a different question. which is, do you know any home remedies? I have asthma. Once I got hospitalized on account of that as a child. Ooh, yeah, I think that is getting more and more common with all of the respiratory problems people have in cities because of pollution and other things like that. Um, this is a good question. The difference between ache and pain. Ache and pain are similar. In some situations, they are synonyms, but there are some cases where it's more common to use one or the other. For example, a toothache, a backache, or a headache, we use ache in those cases, or a stomach ache. And remember, with the word ache, the pronunciation is like a K sound. So a lot of people say stomachache, but it's a stomach ache. A pain I would use to say, yeah, like I have a pain in. You could use the word pain also to say I have a pain in my back, I have a pain in my neck, I'm experiencing back pain. Yeah, in a lot of cases I would use them interchangeably. Okay, so here's the difference. Ache is a persistent, dull discomfort, typically located in a specific body part, such as a headache or a stomach ache, whereas pain is a more intense, sharp, or sudden sensation that is harder to ignore, like the pain from a cut or a broken bone. Yeah, that makes sense. So if your head is kind of just like, ow, 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 constantly, but not one sharp thing, it's kind of dull but continuing, I would say ache. But if you have a more concentrated feeling that's impossible to ignore, maybe from a specific problem, it's more common pain. But really, they are synonyms. So if you said, oh, I have a backache, it sounds more like maybe a continuing problem. I wouldn't say teeth pain. I would say I have a toothache. But if you go to the dentist, you could say, oh yeah, I have a pain right here. So it's more common to say a toothache, but if you wanted to, you could say, I have a pain right here and point to the specific place where you have a pain. So if you're talking about a consistent pain in the general area, I would say an ache. But if you are showing on your body a specific place that has a sharp pain, you could say, yeah, I have a pain here, or I have a pain right here. That's how I would use them. Neck ache. Yeah, you could also say a neck ache. My stomach hurts. Yeah, I would say that's probably the most common thing to say in conversation would be my stomach hurts. The verb hurts is very common to use. Okay, I'm going to see what you guys said about remedies. Someone said ginger is a remedy. And I'm curious what these remedies work for. Is it for any type of sickness or a specific symptom that they work for? Garlic is very helpful. That's true. They say that garlic is good for your immune system. And once I ate a clove of garlic to try to prevent getting sick, but then the flavor of garlic was in my mouth for a full day, no matter how many times I brushed my teeth. So be careful if you're eating raw garlic, because I brushed my teeth many times and the flavor was very persistent. Ginger is a good home remedy for allergies. A home remedy is like a medication that you make in your house. Not medication, but like a treatment to some kind of illness that you make in your house. Usually including natural ingredients like lemon or ginger or garlic. That would be a home remedy. So kind of an alternative to taking medication, which obviously there are different situations where you should definitely take medication. But for some things, maybe like having a cold, people will make a home remedy as well. When your throat is sore, take some lemon juice in a tablespoon mixed with some honey. That would relieve your throat. I like this word a lot, relieve. It relieves pain. It relieves pain or soreness. Has anyone ever told you that you look like Captain America? No. This is the first time. I'll take it as a compliment. Ginger is a remedy for nausea. Garlic is dangerous for breath. That's true. And chamomile for cold. Onion is helpful to breathe better when you are congested. Yeah, garlic is really strong. Don't forget jackfruit. What is jackfruit a home remedy for? I don't know what people use jackfruit for. I had some health vocabulary to show you guys, but maybe it's difficult to see. One of these is nausea. So we have the top one is prescription. If you have a prescription, that is an order for medication signed by your doctor. We have two different types of medication in the United States. We have prescription medication, and over-the-counter medication. Over-the-counter medication or prescription medication. And the reason that it's called over-the-counter medication is because in the US, there is a counter in the pharmacy. And if the medication is in the pharmacy, any person can buy it and pick it up. You don't need any documents to show that you need it. Then it's over the counter. But if it's behind the counter, behind the pharmacist, you need a prescription. That is prescription medication. Nothing like taking a few days away to stay from the pain in the ass. Yeah, it's also, people use this word pain to say that someone is a pain in the neck or a pain in the ass. That's like a person that's very annoying. Banana is good for cramps. Okay, I didn't know that. My mom has bronchitis and she preferred to put hot potatoes in a towel. I've never heard of that. Hot potatoes in a towel. If maybe it's like a hot compress. We call that like when you have something weighted and hot, a hot compress could be good for relieving pain. If you have a cold, you can use ginger, honey, and basil leaves in tea. Okay. What do I say when the doctor said I cannot work and have to stay home? We often call it a doctor's note. It's called sick leave or medical leave when it's through your work, but the document itself that the doctor gives you is called a medical certificate or a fit note in the UK. Yeah. So like the more formal way to say it is a medical certificate, but you might be on, let me give you a sentence like, the doctor gave me a medical certificate so I can request sick leave. And apparently the Brits call this a fit note, which is interesting. Cloves for teeth pain. I did not know that. Also, that's another good phrase here. I'm calling in sick. So if you decide to request off from work because you're sick, you can also say I'm calling in sick is another way to say that. Okay, we also have flu, and we do not really use the full word influenza very much. It's the most common to say flu. And usually we say I have the flu, not just I have flu. So I have the flu. Yeah, I would say a sick day or sick leave. A sick day off. Yeah, you could say I had the day off because I'm sick. But very often when people say they have the day off, very often when they say that they have the day off, that kind of has the idea that they are taking a vacation as well. So if you only say I have the day off, people might understand that you mean vacation. So you should be specific. Not B flu, the flu. So, or the flu. I have the flu. And do you have a health plan? How does it work in the USA? Is it expensive like they say? I live in Chile, so I do not have medical insurance in the United States, but it's difficult in the United States because we don't really have a good public health plan. There are some plans that are good if you have good insurance, so it depends on your job. But the difficult thing in the US is then if you lose your job, you lose your insurance. So for that reason, it's kind of dependent on your employment, our health program. There's the Affordable Care Act, but it's really not good compared to other countries. We have the most expensive healthcare system in the world and also a lot of uninsured people that end up going to hospitals without medical insurance. Cinnamon relieves women's pain. I would say chocolate, cinnamon, sugar. Are there public hospitals in Chile? Yes, there are. And I do use the public insurance in Chile. Get a cold or sick when the temperature is low, not due to virus or bacteria. I thought that was kind of a myth, and it was because of virus or bacteria. How's the health system in Chile in general? I mean, I think that people complain about the health system in every country because it's what they know, but compared to the US, I think the health system in Chile, I've had really good experiences with it. There's like a privatized insurance plan and a public insurance plan. So you can choose which one you want. If you have more like chronic conditions or you're older, it makes sense to have the privatized one. But in my case, I don't really have the need to go to a bunch of specialists and things like that. So I've had really good experiences with the public health system. Yeah, and I also had really good experience. I got teeth cleaning and dental care here, and the prices were way more affordable compared to in the United States. So I had a good experience with dental care also. And it's easy. I think everything is online, so it's easy to pay for your insurance and things like that. Not become the flu, have the flu. Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. If you said, I become the flu, it means that you transform into the flu. So instead of that, you need to say, I got the flu. If you became contagious with the flu or you got infected by the flu, we use the word got. I got the flu. Or right now, I have the flu. So those would be your two options. Okay, we also have surgery. That's the building where doctors work. That is more British, to be honest. We don't call it the surgery. We would use the word surgery to refer to medical operations, like if you break your knee and you need a doctor to go in and cut something and sew something together, that would be surgery in the US. Nausea, contagious, and indigestion. Those were some of the other ones. I also wanted to show you guys some phrasal verbs. So we also use a lot of phrasal verbs when talking about health because we use phrasal verbs in a lot of everyday situations, and I think it will be helpful if you're someone that struggles learning phrasal verbs. Sometimes it could be helpful to learn in categories, right? So phrasal verbs related to technology, phrasal verbs related to health. So that's one way that I think it can be helpful to learn new vocabulary. is when you learn it based on a theme because you can make connections in that theme and it's easier to remember things. Operation or surgery, both of those to me are the same thing. Yeah, but I would say it's more common as a normal person that's not a doctor to use the word surgery. So it's possible that in a formal context, you could use surgery or operation, or the room where they do the surgery, they call the operating room. But as just a normal citizen that's not a doctor, we would probably use the word surgery a lot more compared to operation. Okay, so we have different phrasal verbs. Pass away. To pass away is when someone dies, and it's a respectful way to say that someone dies. But be careful because there's also pass out. And pass out is to faint or lose consciousness. So if you go, oh, and you lose consciousness, that is to pass out. Okay, we have a doctor in the chat, and she said the correct way is surgery. So surgery is the better word. Yeah, I was thinking because as a common person, I always say surgery, but you sometimes see names of things like the operating room. And so sometimes there are situations where the professionals use a different vocabulary versus the normal people. So be careful with pass away versus pass out. That's a very important difference. I remember one time my husband was telling me a story about a kid that passed out, like he fainted and lost consciousness. And by accident, he said he passed away. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a sad story. But no, he passed out. I'm curious, have any of you ever passed out before? So, have you ever passed out? And this word out is related to losing consciousness. Of course, prepositions have my for losing. That's how I look when I pass out. I was going to say that this word out, so prepositions have different meanings, but one use of the word out is related to losing consciousness. So, for example, if someone is boxing and one person knocks the other person out, they punch them and they lose consciousness. So he is knocked out. If you have ever heard of a one-hit KO, a one-hit knockout, pass out. Also, if you see that there's a child sleeping, the mom can say, yeah, he's out, like he's completely unconscious, sleeping heavily. This word out is connected to some different phrasal verbs related to losing consciousness. When I was a child, I hit my head and I passed out. Oh my goodness. That sounds kind of scary to experience as a child. I have passed out before a few times ago. I would say maybe a while ago. When you say a few times ago, it's like multiple instances instead of a duration of time. So I have passed out a little while ago or some time ago. I haven't passed out regularly when I was a child. One time I passed out in Santiago, in the capital city in Chile. I went to go get some food. I was very hungry and I didn't eat enough that day. And I was in line to get a sandwich. And all of a sudden, I started to lose consciousness. And I could feel everything going dark and I passed out. And when I woke up, there were 3 people in the line from the sandwich shop holding my legs in the air, trying to get the blood to flow back into my head. So when I woke up, I was laying on the street and there were 3 strangers holding my legs in the air. which was very funny, but they were very nice. And the people that worked at the sandwich shop came and gave me water with sugar dissolved in it. So I think they realized that I just had low blood sugar. Last week, I was on the verge of passing out because I played football for 2 hours, and in no time, I felt like, I don't know how to describe that face, but you must pass out in surgery. It's not pass out has this idea that it's not on purpose, that you lose consciousness, but it's not something that you do on purpose. I would say they knock you out. That's very informal, but they knock you out is like they make you lose consciousness. They knock you out. Yes, put you under. That's what Yeah, this is what they do at the hospital. Thank you so much. It's very informal what I said to knock you out. They put you under anesthesia, and sometimes you can hear people just say they put you under only, and they are referring to anesthesia. Also, earlier, I think you asked me to repeat the word bronchitis, and I forgot to do that. Bronchitis. Bronchitis. Yeah, so it is medical anesthesia, but what I was trying to remember is the verb, the action that's used. And so you would use to put you under anesthesia. I would say with the medical vocabulary, really what you guys should pay attention to is not individual words and translations, but what are the verbs or other words I can use with it. Because if you only know the word medical anesthesia, in the moment when you're talking to someone, it's important to remember, oh, can I say that they used anesthesia or they put me under anesthesia? So that's a good phrase to remember. Okay, we also have to, this is kind of dark, maybe, some of these. Hopefully you guys don't have to describe situations like this. But if you run over someone in your car, it means that you drive and they go under your car and die. Also, to run into is not as maybe aggressive as run over. It's that you hit someone with your car, but it's not specific that they went under your car. What is anesthesia? Anesthesia is used to make patients sleep while they're getting surgery. That's how I would describe it. And a lot of hospitals have a specific person that does the anesthesia, and that person is called an anesthesiologist, is the person that gives anesthesia to the people. Okay, we also have to fight off, which means that you're starting to feel sick and having a lot of symptoms, but maybe you eat garlic. No, I'm just kidding. And you are basically battling the illness. So if you feel that you have a cold or the flu and your body is battling this illness and trying to feel better, you can tell someone, yeah, I'm fighting off a cold right now. I'm trying my best to feel better, but I'm in this battle with this sickness that I have. So that would be to fight off a sickness. The last three that we have, maybe this one connects to it. So if you fight off a sickness and you don't have the symptoms anymore, you can say, I got over my sickness. So yes, I got over my cold. Oh, do you still have a cold? No, I got over my cold. I'm done with my cold. We also have to break out. So to break out is used a lot with skin conditions. If you break out in a rash, it means that you start to develop a rash. It's used a lot with acne. If you hear a person on TikTok or Instagram say, oh, look at my skin, I'm starting to break out, or that soap makes me break out, they're referring to acne on the skin. So they're referring to pimples or acne. A lot of soaps for your face say, like, this is the best soap to prevent a breakout, or things like that. I got over my flu. Is this sentence correct? I have passed away from sciatica pain. Be careful with pass away means that I died. So I died from sciatica pain. Probably not. It would be I passed out and not I passed away. So I passed out. Yeah, remember that out is related to losing consciousness, and away is like this person is on a journey to a different place, meaning heaven or whatever you believe in. So yeah, pass out in that situation. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know if people pass away due to sciatica pain, but hopefully it would be pass out. The last one here is to throw up. I will say the word vomit is a word in English, but it's really not that common to use in a casual conversation. It sounds more medical to say, he is vomiting. It sounds a little bit not as natural to use. I mean, everyone will understand you. So if you're in a situation where you need to describe what's happening and it's an emergency and you're on the phone with 911, use whatever word comes to mind, like, yes, I'm vomiting blood or whatever. That's perfect. But in general, I recommend also to be familiar with the phrasal verb throw up, because if someone says, yeah, I was throwing up earlier, a lot of people confuse throw up with throw out or throw away or other phrasal verbs, and you might not get the real meaning of what someone's saying to you. So throw up means to vomit. Passed out is used for graduation in India. He passed out from Oxford University last year. That's so interesting. Yeah, because we would never use pass out to talk about that in the US. So that's a good point too, is that some phrasal verbs are different in different countries. And that's part of why also when people say, oh, how can I memorize every phrasal verb? It's important to remember, including native speakers, we don't know every single phrasal verb because there are different phrasal verbs in different countries. There are different phrasal verbs depending on your generation. Like young people have new words that they use. So it's really good to get better at understanding through context. Is Duolingo good for improving English? I would say that Duolingo can be a useful tool, but if you're only using Duolingo, it will be pretty passive, because there are some things that you're not really practicing with Duolingo, like to create your own sentences, to tell your own stories, to talk about yourself, to be improvisational in the moment, and maybe also to listen to someone that is difficult to understand for a long period of time. So there are some things that you will not get if you only use Duolingo, but I do think it can help if you want to reinforce your vocabulary a little bit every day, and maybe. But I think what does help is if you see the words in Duolingo, but you're also consuming content in English, to maybe recognize those words in real life. Because the more connections that you make and the more variety of ways you practice, the more effective it will be for your memory. Try Mondly. I like it better. Okay, we have a recommendation for a different application, Mondly. The smell of seafood makes me feel like chucking up every single time. That's true. We have several ways to say throw up. We could say to throw up, to chuck up, to hurl also is another one. To hurl, to I think those are the main ones that I can think of. Or people say, I think I'm gonna be sick. Maybe you've seen this before in a movie or something. I think I'm gonna be sick. That's like, I think I'm going to throw up. I think I'm gonna be sick. Yeah, if you want to look at this one, I'll show it to you. It's like to regain consciousness. When he finally came to, he was in the hospital. Yeah, it's like to regain consciousness. Okay, let me see. How to start reading in a new language. I started with The Lord of the Rings. I personally think that, I don't know, I wouldn't start with a book like The Lord of the Rings to read in another language. I think a lot of us, the way that we developed our reading abilities in our native language is with increasing difficulty over many years. So like when you're really young, you read very simple books, and then with time you read simple chapter books, and the text gets increasingly more difficult or more literary and with more hidden themes and vocabulary. And that's why we have the level that we have as adults. But most people have not been through that process in English or in their, like, the language that you're learning. And so I think it's better in my experience, it's better to start with books that are not at your same reading level in your native language. So I think it's better to start with books where, for example, if I'm reading a book in English, it's okay if I don't know every single word because I know almost all of the words on the page, so I can decipher what a word could mean, even if it's a very old-fashioned or literary word. But if you're reading a book and you don't understand 50% of the words, you're not going to be able to use context to really help you. So what I would do is, it's helpful if you can find a page or a couple pages of a book and see, okay, how many words do I not know? And can I still grasp the meaning? Like, do I have enough vocabulary to be able to use the context to understand what people are saying or what the author is saying? Yeah, because there are different ways to read. There are people that stop constantly to look up words. For me personally, that's not as helpful as finding a book that I can get into a bit more, because if I just stop and look up words, I don't always remember them later. It's better for me to kind of try to use the context to decipher more. So yeah, I would say in terms of choosing books, what can help is to look at recommendations for like high school book lists for people that are in high school, or middle school book lists for people that are in middle school. So that's what I would recommend, is kind of, there are also different charts where you can see based on you can search also based on my SEFR level. If I'm B2, what level of English, I forget, there's a name for it, but they give books specific levels. Like what level of books should I read in English? So you could search for something like that. A phrasal verb has many meanings. How can one remember them and use them? It's true, there are multiple meanings, and that can sometimes be difficult. I think you could also use it to help you remember, though. Like, for example, with the phrasal verb to blow away, if you are standing outside with a lot of papers and the wind blows your papers and they go away with the wind. My papers blew away. Or if you're in a movie and the movie was very impressive, you could say, wow, I was blown away by that movie. Sometimes having a more physical, visual meaning of a phrasal verb could help you understand the more metaphor version of it. But yeah, I would just say practice. Finding songs that use phrasal verbs can be helpful. Challenging yourself to use them every week. If you consume authentic materials and content in English, you will see a lot of phrasal verbs. So the more that you consume authentic materials and content in English, the more exposure you'll have and it will make it easier. That's really my best advice. And yeah, like TV shows, people talking, even on the news, we use phrasal verbs so much that I would just say keep practicing by consuming content in English. And I've made a lot of videos about phrasal verbs, so I feel like there's a lot to say. Like also the second word, the particle, like out, in, on, up, those also carry different meanings. So for example, the word off could be related to removing. If I wipe off something that is on my face, or I take off my shoes, but also off could be related to leaving a place. Like my plane is taking off. I am heading off. I'm leaving a place. So I think understanding the patterns with the meanings of that second word can also be helpful. Kind of random question here. How do you reply to a person when after they realize you've got an accent, they talk to you differently, like slower, louder, etc., and the whole situation makes me feel undermined? Okay, that actually, something like that happened to me recently where I met someone who started talking to me, heard that I had an accent, and then while we were talking, he was like, "Do you understand me?" And I was like, "Yes, I've lived here for 4.5 years. Like, yes, I understand you." And he then he asked my friend, like, "Does she understand me?" And was like, "Yes, I do." So it's pretty annoying. I totally feel for you that when you're talking to someone and just because you have an accent, they think that you can't understand them. I guess it depends on the context. I'm just trying to think of a specific scenario. Like if you're in a meeting and someone is giving you directions, like here's how to set up the printer, and you're just like, okay, and then they start to say, and this button is for this. Yeah, maybe one way that you could respond, because I understand it's frustrating, but it also depends on the situation if you want to really be aggressive with them. But maybe interrupting them and asking a specific question. So if they're like, then you press the button, then you do this. If you could be like, okay, I'm just out of curiosity, what happens when this? So interrupt them and maybe ask a specific question to kind of take control of the conversation. That might be what I would do. If someone starts speaking to me really slow, or like they think that I don't understand what they're saying, I would maybe kind of interrupt them and steer the conversation myself, and maybe show that you have more fluency and vocabulary. And two things. One, they could pick up on the hint that you actually understand more English than they're giving you credit for. Or the second thing, which has also happened to me, sometimes people forget. So in their mind, they're like, oh, I have to talk slow for this person. But when you interrupt them and ask them something else, they might forget this idea they had and kind of go with the flow of the conversation. So yeah, that's what I would say. I know some people are anti-interrupting others, but in that kind of situation, I would say like, Okay, well, one question, like kind of ignore what they're saying, or be a little dismissive of the way they're talking and ask something else. That's what I would do. And if the situation is right, you could also say like, by the way, I understand you. I've noticed that you've slowed down. You don't need to do that. So, depending on how comfortable you feel being really direct, I also think you could say that. I don't know if that answers your question or if anyone else has any thoughts about that because, yeah, I have also experienced that kind of situation. And um, I think it's frustrating that just because you might have an accent, people might make an assumption that you don't understand. Good point. You are smart. That's funny. Are the expressions Yeah, a lot of people also say like that's crazy if someone's telling you a story and you don't understand what they're saying. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Maybe that could be a video. How to respond when people are treating you worse for having an accent or something like that. Um, nice. All right. I should probably go and get along with my day. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And thank you for joining. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.